Wonderful. So I'll get started. I know there's a huge number of businesses joining. We're sitting at about 20 now. No doubt there'll be quite a number that join us throughout. I know there's several businesses that were without power that now have power and are likely off their feet, just getting straight into it this morning. So we're just going to get straight into it. I just want to mention before we start that this is going to be recorded and it's going to be made available to those, to our members afterwards. So if you don't want to be recorded, please switch off your camera. Nonetheless, we're going to get straight into it. Today, I have a panel of fantastic speakers that are going to address the road ahead, and then I'll close with comments as to what the Chamber is doing on the ground as well. I'm cognizant of time though, so I just want to throw straight in to get started to talk about that operational response on the ground heading into the recovery phase. Is our incredible city's CEO, Tim, and the wonderful local recovery coordinator, Kath, who probably have the hardest jobs in the city right now. So I'm going to throw over to yourself, Tim.
So thanks. I think Kath's got the hardest job in the city. I'm just the guy at the front, so it's always easy to be the guy at the front. What I thought I would do, well, for starters, I'm Tim Baker. I'm the CEO, City of Gold Coast, and this is Kath. So yes, Kath is the area recovery coordinator. So Kath will be, as we're moving out of our response into recovery, Kath is responsible for the city's recovery efforts across the whole city. So you are very lucky to get Kath. She is the busiest person on the Gold Coast right now. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to speak for about 15 minutes, then I've got to jump off and go to another meeting with a politician, and then I'll leave you with Kath. So I thought I'd just give you a quick overview of what the current state of play is right now, and then let Kath talk a little bit about the recovery and our planning for recovery. We've really only this morning flicked the switch between response and recovery. So, and before I dive in with the update, I just thought I'd also say, look, at the City of Gold Coast, we are absolutely acutely aware of the impact that this has had on the business community. We've got pretty lucky in terms of the physical damage, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But we are very much aware about the impact that it's had on the business community, particularly small business in the city. And we are going to move heaven and earth, I can promise you that, to make sure we recover as quickly as possible and we get the open for business sign up in the city. We understand that. And with Mayor Tom Tate, a former small business person himself, former member of this chamber, I think actually, Zach, wasn't he? He gets it, and I can guarantee you, I love working with Tom Tate, but he is riding me already incredibly hard to make sure we get up and going with a mind focused both on community and the business community. So right, here's where we're at. We still have 2 flood warnings that are currently active on the Gold Coast. These warnings continue to be reviewed and updated. We've got, to be clear, they alarmed and they were at active warning stage. We didn't need to evacuate anyone. We had some small numbers of evacuations, but we didn't need to do mass evacuation. Don't worry. So we didn't sort of have to evacuate communities. We did some Swiftwater evacuations, not last night, but the night before. But generally speaking, they were probably at the lower end of flooding warning activation. We have 83 roads closed across the Gold Coast, and that's a combination of water and trees. Roads and bridges are being inspected by my team on the ground right now. So we have, I think it's around 200 staff on the ground now doing either cleanup or inspections across the city, plus SES as well. Weather conditions have absolutely eased. I saw a bit of blue skies. I was driving into the Disaster Management Centre today, and there's a high chance of light showers today, and light to moderate winds. So we are definitely through this. As at 4 p.m. Tuesday, is that right? Tuesday, yeah. 4 a.m. Tuesday, sorry, not 4 p.m. I thought it was predictive, Kath. As at 4 a.m. Tuesday, there were 44,000 properties without power, but that's down from, I think it peaked at about 200.
It's just under 200 on the
Just under 200. Look, I have to say, Energetics are doing an amazing job. They have been on the ground. That, you know, it's so just to give you a very quick sense of this. So if there's a tree across power lines, basically Energetics need to go out and secure the power lines to make sure it's safe to remove the tree. Then one of either my crew or Energetics crew or SES have to then remove the tree, and then Energetics have to go back and put the lines back up. And then sometimes we then go back again and clean up the trees. So, you know, it's not a small undertaking. They've been doing a power of work with our colleagues and friends from SES, who once again have just been amazing. To considering the amount of outages we've had, to get it down to 44,000, which I know is still a lot, and in under normal circumstances that would be considered a major outage. They've done a really, really impressive job, and we can talk a bit about that. So just to give you a sense, on Monday afternoon, it was at 58,000, and overnight they've got it to 44 because they're working through the night as well. So, we've done 75 damage assessments. 2 properties have been completely destroyed, 3 damaged, 3 have moderate, and then 12 have minor damage. So, as I said, we haven't seen huge amounts of damage. I mean, if you're those people, it's heartbreaking. Don't get me wrong. And we've got staff working here inside the disaster recovery centre who have got parts of their roof missing, but we haven't seen, like for lack of a better description, a Cyclone Tracy like flattening of the city, and that really was because the winds sort of were downgraded as it came across the islands, the Bay Islands, into towards just north of Brisbane. The 2 destroyed properties are in Currumbin and Labrador. Now, I won't talk about the recovery hubs for financial assistance. I'll let Kath do that. So I guess what I would say is, all in all, I think we've still got, the other one that is very relevant, we've still got about 40 traffic lights out across the city, which is making life interesting, driving around the city. But all in all, I'm happy to report people seem to be reasonably sensible in the way that they are that they're driving around the city. We haven't, speaking to Queensland Police, we haven't seen significant inappropriate behaviour, no looting, for lack of a better word, and so that's very positive. The other one I do want to mention was reported in the media, and it is true that the Mayor and I were in a helicopter yesterday, predominantly having a look at the beaches, but also having a look at flood damage. For the record, I hate helicopters, so I was Kath was with us actually. It was not a joyride flight, I can promise you. What we saw was interesting to see the whole of our beaches. What we saw was basically Main Beach to Surfers Paradise, a fair whack, up to 5 to 6 metres of scarping, which is going to take some time to fix. But we also saw a number of beaches that were damaged, but which we think we can pretty quickly get back up and going again. So we will have the big excavators and the trucks starting today at Surfers Paradise. Burleigh looks okay, and the further south down at Currumbin looks okay, and Kirra as well. When I say okay, if you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have been banging the desk saying get the trucks down there and fix it. But you know, compared to what we're getting at the northern end of the beach is between particularly Narrowneck. So what we're doing right now is 3 things with the beaches. Firstly, we're securing the infrastructure. I and the Mayor are very concerned about. We've got infrastructure that's got nothing underneath, and it's sort of just sitting there. And 2 days ago, we had people wanting to look at the waves on decks that had nothing underneath it, right? So we're securing that all off. The second thing we're doing is we're focusing on the access points to the beach. So making sure either if it's safe, if it's an area of the beach that's okay to swim, we make the access point safe, and if it's not, making sure it's locked off. As I said, then the hard work begins. We're looking at quick wins where we can, because we want to send a message to community and more broadly that the beaches are open and able to be swum on when they're able. And so areas like surface, areas like in front of Broadbeach looks okay. We'll be sort of saying go to there, because for Gold Coasters, they're going to want to go to their regular beach. That's not going to happen for a while. The other thing we are doing is we have already made preparations for significant infrastructure from New South Wales to help us with the broader beach piece. Now, you can probably guess what that is, but we're just signing contracts at the moment. So, so for dredging and putting the sand back, we're ahead of the game. We actually engaged that we started the process of engaging that equipment 3 weeks ago. And then one last very quick one for me, although you could do it, is some of you might remember Project Cleanup from the Christmas flood weather event. So we're basically rolling out a very similar project to Project Cleanup again, where we will be doing. Firstly, we are getting the waste transfer stations open as quickly as possible. We've got the bin runs going again, and I know for many of you on this call, you would have hopefully had your bin emptied, your big skip bin emptied on Saturday and Sunday. That was a huge effort to try and get that done in, just marginal, but it's safe. It was safe, but it was just safe. And then we'll be doing a similar roadside cleanup to what we did before. But this time around, given the size and scale, not so much of volume, but of spread, we're hoping that businesses and community will do as much of the cleanup as they can, and then we'll pick the rubbish up rather than what we did before, which was really going house by house by house, which was okay when this was in 3 suburbs, but this is now across the whole city. All right, that's me done. I've probably used too much of your time, Zach, sorry, but so I have to run, but I just want to say I'm happy to jump on calls like this whenever you want. I'm happy to do it face to face. We are both obviously very busy, but we are absolutely connected to community, to the business community, and we want to be connected. So if there's anything, reach out via Zach, and we can arrange to get. And I can also get my Invest Gold Coast team. Well, they won't mind anymore; they're now a separate business, but we'll get that team in to help as well. And then the last thing I wanted to say was just a huge thank you. I had the opportunity right before this storm hit to do a bit of a drive through your area and through the city more broadly. And the way the business community locked down hard, they tied everything up. That is why we're in such a good state at the moment, because we all sort of mucked in, put our shoulder to the wheel, and got it done together. It was a great whole of city approach. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you on behalf of the Mayor and the Council. Now I'm going to leave you with Kath, who's not going to read my emails on my computer once I've
I will pass it over when you're done.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Tim. Alrighty. Thanks. Like as I mentioned, what I might do is just quickly talk you through what we call the relief and early recovery stage. So 1 second. Just close the door for me, Nikki. Sorry. And then we can talk through, I guess, part of that, which is the economic cell and how we actually support recovery from an economic perspective for the city of Gold Coast and the Gold Coast more broadly. As Tim said, today we're formally going to go into a early recovery phase. Now we're after the disaster, but obviously early recovery very much is focused on safety still, and ensuring that we actually understand the actual impacts of the event. What we do is we actually break our recovery into 4 different themes. So we have human social response, and that is really about understanding the impact this has had on people. Then we have our environmental sub-team, and they focus obviously on the impact on the environment. We have our infrastructure area, and they focus on the infrastructure on the Gold Coast, and then the economic stream as well, which is understanding the impact to the Gold Coast economy. So underneath me, I have what we call chairs of all of those groups, and they each have someone generally from the city of Gold Coast. For the economic area, we actually use the Invest Gold Coast team, which has been set up recently, and they take point to actually understand what's going on. So from an early recovery stage, at the moment, as Tim said, we're really focusing on making sure things are safe, and we understand the actual impact. So we have, for example, the Queensland Fire Department, they go out and they do the damage assessments. of all the properties that have been impacted across the coast. We use our own internal data to understand the impacts across our parks, our roads, our bridges. And then what we're doing at the moment is we're still sending out engineers to make sure things are safe. So this morning, for example, Jacob's Well is still isolated by floodwaters. As soon as the floodwaters recede, I know people want to immediately come out. We have a responsibility to actually make sure that road and any bridges are safe before people can drive. So that's going to take a bit of time, and we're expecting, obviously, we're working through, as Tim said, a bit of a priority list in terms of our own assets. Where we need to, we send the SES in. We've been using the ADF as well. One of the significant impacts that we haven't still fixed yet is the communication towers. So I'm sure you've all been struggling with comms at the moment. And they are obviously working through those cell network towers and making sure that they get those back online, because that's absolutely critical. We've been working with our waste department as well to make sure we could remove all of the waste that Coles and Woolies, so the supermarkets, needed to remove a lot of things before they could actually start that restocking process. And as I understand, that supply chain is really coming back, and we should start to see the supermarket shelves being restocked pretty quickly. That's a very high priority, as you can imagine, for the Premier, because obviously getting people access to fresh food is absolutely just fundamental at this stage. And we're starting to see some of that come through. We still have those power outages. Just a reminder, if you are without power or others are, Energex also now have their restoration plan, and that's their kind of their response, which will tell people how long they're going to be without power. Obviously, it's always an indication, but this is very similar to the previous event where they will have that, and that's where we're sending people to. If you want to know up-to-date information, we're continuing to update the city dashboard. So City of Gold Coast dashboard, that has got all the information, and we link through to all our other agencies as well. So that's how we make sure people have up-to-date information. That's had 2 million hits in the last couple of days. It is obviously the source of truth, and absolutely has been working as intended. So part of my role is to work across multiple agencies. And as Tim said, what we've been doing at the moment is ensuring that we've had relief centres for the Gold Coast. And that is about making sure people had somewhere that had power. And our primary focus has been on emergency comms, so just doing your mobile phones, and then obviously medical equipment. So making sure that people had power and had those charged. What is happening today is we're starting to now work with the Department of Local, I'm going to get this wrong, Local Government, Water and Volunteers, previously the Department of Communities. Their community recovery teams are standing up, and they will be recovery hubs from today. So starting off, they will be in the Nerang Bicentennial Centre. They are open from 9 o'clock to 4 p.m. And in those centres, we have a number of agencies. That includes the Department of Small Business, and they will be there. And at the moment, they have a survey which they utilise to start to get intel from the small business and business community. This helps them with their I guess, grants and funding and requests. So like I said, we're in this intelligence gathering stage at the moment. So Zach, I might make sure if everyone hasn't, that you've got a copy of that survey so that people can fill that out. And the same way, as you all know, the Commonwealth announced yesterday, there is a personal hardship and assistance grant that's now available for the whole of Gold Coast. And if you go to, I think, there's a couple of different websites, but certainly if you go to look up Recovery Gold Coast, you will actually see the ability to fill out those forms. And it's actually a single form when you fill out the questions, and that's that community grant funding. So the Department of Local Government, Water and Volunteers will be creating these recovery hubs, and they will have people trained in and filling out those grant forms so that people can go there and actually fill those out. We will also have at those recovery hubs, we will have people from the City of Gold Coast providing support if you've got council kind of services you need help with. And in addition, there will be things like we normally get someone from the Insurance Council comes along from insurance, Optus are going to be there. So as I mentioned, Nerang is there today. And also we will have I believe Burley Waters Community Centre will be set up as well today as the first two, and then we will have some other ones popping up across the Gold Coast. So as we start to see where these impacts are across the Gold Coast, we can decide where we actually need to put those recovery hubs. And then what we're doing is supplementing that with door knocking at the moment. So obviously conscious of the areas that don't have power, they don't have communications. And so just making sure we're checking on them. And then depending on the type of support, we will connect them with the type of support. I should also mention each of those community recovery hubs also always has someone who's providing psychological first aid. So that is available as well. So that will be Red Cross or Lifeline, for example, there as well. In terms of actual support, we also have what we call a community flyer. And that is just providing all the details of relief centres, recovery centres. We are bringing back our own assets at the moment. So once those structural engineers have gone to a library, for example, we can start to open up our own normal services as well. So very much an early response, like I said, making safe and understanding right now what is going on. So from a small business perspective, completing the survey, telling us, making sure we understand any kind of damage that you've had, going through your insurance. I had confirmation from Liam, who's our point of contact at the Insurance Council, is that there's a real furphy that you can't actually get rid of your waste, but he is absolutely adamant that as long as you take photographic evidence of what's the before and after, then you don't have to wait for your insurer to come around and do that assessment. So that's going to really help everyone in terms of just getting straight into that recovery phase. So then what we will do is using Ben as our point, and we get all of this intel, we'll start to begin to create what we call our recovery plan. And that recovery plan will be based on, like I said, those 4 kind of pillars of how we want the Gold Coast to recover. So our human, social, economic, environmental and infrastructure components. Once we get that using the intel that we've got through our subgroups, then what we're going to do is we're going to present it back to you and say, does this resonate? Is this actually telling you what we believe is the right way for the Gold Coast to recover in these different ways? And certainly using these kind of groups and these kind of intelligence will really help us refine that. It is not up to my team to decide how the Gold Coast recovers. We need the Gold Coast to tell us. So we use that group and those intel. We've obviously done these a few times. We've got a good idea, and then we play it back to you. And then that information becomes our public recovery plan. If you want to see what one of those looks like, if you haven't seen one before, again, go to the dashboard, look up the Christmas storm events from last year, and you'll see our Gold Coast recovery plan. For that one, we're currently in our long term, and the irony, of course, is that events don't schedule themselves. So we sometimes are in recovery from one thing and then we recover from another. And then that one, we're in our long term recovery tail now. And as you can imagine, we had significant environmental impacts of all the trees that went down. And that's going to take us years to recover from that event, let alone another one that's happened now. So they do absolutely overlay. And then obviously in that, we'll start to think about and I think from an economic perspective, we really see the interlinking across all of the different areas. So at the moment, for example, we have, as Tim said, Operation Cleanup. We need to make the Gold Coast look beautiful again if we want people to come back and visit. So we understand that even though there might be primary things such as getting our environment, making sure we've done our water quality so it's safe to swim, making sure the beaches are safe to access, that might be led in those other environmental and infrastructure teams, but the impact actually could be on our economic areas as well. So that linkage between all the groups is really important because obviously it's quite circular in terms of support. We also have obviously different grant programs, and we work with the different departments to advocate. So like I said, information, so we can say, here are the stories. These are the people that impacted. These are the people that need help. So any of the particular small business, we know last time there was some support, continuing to do that survey. I think that's probably the key message for yourselves and for your community right now. Is that?
Yeah, it definitely is. Thank you, Kath. What I'll do is, again, I just want to thank you for your incredible work over the last few days. I know it's been very, very busy, and I know just this morning you guys switched to recovery, so it's been a big moment. So I thank you for taking the time to join us.